Here at home, the National Consumer Commission has received over 20 complaints of overcharging on goods that people are stocking up on during this COVID-19 outbreak. That's despite warnings from government that individuals and companies who inflate prices will face penalties. Let's chat some more about this now with Acting Commissioner Tezi Mabuza joining us via Skype this evening. Tezi, good evening, and thank you so much for your time. So tell us about some of these complaints. What are they? What are people overcharging for, and who's doing it, if you're able to tell us?
We have complaints actually that range from especially from your sanitizing products, your masks, and your hand gloves. So those are the issues wherein we really find a number of complaints. But most of all is also what is also disturbing is around the issue of your toilet paper. That was really kind of like concerning.
Are you able to tell us? Are you able to name and shame these retailers, Tezi?
For now, we wouldn't like to because we wanted to confirm with the retailers. We have actually issued 11 investigation certificates to them this afternoon. So we wanted to follow up with them to ensure that they have each received and confirmed that they have received them. And once they have received them, we will be able to name and shame them. But they are all across the provinces. We will be saying in Gauteng, in the Western Cape, in Mpumalanga, and then in the Free State. The one where we haven't received anything, I think for now it's KZN and it's the Northern Cape. But they would include most of your retailers that we normally buy from regularly, and some of them would be some of the bigger retailers that are listed. And that is actually what is worrying for us because they promised that they would keep their prices in check. Maybe they've got a reasonable explanation for that.
Well, I very much doubt that anybody's going to buy what a reasonable explanation could be. But I suppose, yes, you know, shopper loyalty is something we want to believe that we've not been taken for a ride, Tezi. But yes, yesterday we heard the President say that those who are warning those who might try to profit from this, that they will face the full might of the law. So what are the kinds of punishments that these retailers could be facing? Will they just be fines, penalties, maybe shutdowns in some cases?
In this case, it will be our penalties because for now, what we are looking at is that it will be difficult to really say to them, refund the consumer because we're looking at products that will be costing like 47 Rand or so, where we can, because most of that we are looking at trends. So what we'll be looking at is the hefty fines. That will be, in most cases, they are 10% of their annual turnover. That is the most that we can go for. But for smaller retailers, it will be up to a maximum of R1 million.
All right, let's move on now to consumer rights in other spheres, and we'll wait for news of that one from you, of retailers and what happens to them. Let's look at things, Tezi, like, you know, people who need to have, for example, cars that need to be serviced, things that need to be done in a certain time. Also, if we look at people who've had functions, examples, weddings and things that have been planned in this time. Let's start first with services like car services and all of that. What happens in those cases?
Car services is a contract wherein you, I would say, you shift your risk to a warranty owner. So you have a contract with them. Some of them would give you a leeway of like 1,000 or 1,500 kilometers. So for us now, what we are saying to consumers, please look at the contract that we have signed with the supplier. Make an arrangement with them. And for now, what is really also an issue is that if you are a consumer and then you have confirmed for a service with your vehicle, you would find that it is impossible for you to take your vehicle to a supplier. But again, the supplier has the impossibility to deliver. On both sides, you have the elements of impossibilities. So what we are saying is ask for a permission in writing and say to them, I've made this booking. It's impossible for me to take it during these 3 weeks. And then can I get a confirmation in writing that I would not be penalized? So that is what we need. But then what we are also saying to the consumers is that don't be reckless, because what you know is that with that leeway of 1,000 kilometers, all we know is that if it's a lockdown, yes, we would expect people not to drive far distances, but there might be certain issues of emergencies where people will be forced to drive. So if you know that your service is due, please communicate with the service provider. Let them know, especially with your insurer, let them know that this is what it is, so they cannot actually fulfill their obligation on your side.
What about things like weddings or people who have booked wedding venues in this time? That's the other big one. What do? Are they entitled to a full refund in this time?
Everybody's entitled to a cancellation. But then remember the cancellation also, if you cancel, it means you as a consumer, you are not able to either come to the party or fulfill it. But on the other side is that you have supervening circumstances beyond your control. The same thing as the venue provider or the person that was supposed to bake your cake is that maybe the cake is ready, they have to deliver it, but you can't use the cake. So now what we are looking at is that in these impossibilities from either the consumer and the supplier is that we are saying to parties it's better that people mediate and find a better solution wherein if it's necessary for people maybe to defer that, but where it is impossible. Remember if somebody baked you a cake, or maybe they ordered those flowers for your arrangements, the wedding will be on Saturday. Somebody delivers the flowers. That would mean that they would have lost on the other side. So the cancellation would also take into cognizance what the supplier would have lost if you cancel. But if you defer, it's something that can be negotiated between parties because it's an impossibility for both parties, as I've said, even in dealing with the COVID.
Everybody has very little choice at this time. And then the other thing is flights at the moment, Izzy. People who have flights booked, they're obviously not going to be able to do those in the next couple of weeks and maybe even longer than that. For example, Mango Airlines scheduled to stop flying at some point and people not able to use those flights in the time before they stopped. What are you entitled to there, or is that still a bit of a grey area at the moment?
I think for now, if that cancellation was before the disaster, consumers then, because now it was the airline that could not fulfill. So we would expect that the airline should be able to refund the consumers in full because it was not their own making. I've seen in other industries or in other jurisdictions wherein the airline has cancelled because they can't fly to a particular destination because either it's too dangerous for them and all that, they have refunded to the consumers in full. So we are pleading with the industry to look at the circumstances differently, wherein they could not fulfill either refund in full, but wherein is the making of the consumer, then is wherein the cancellation clause will come in. But remember, the cancellation clause is there to say that the supplier has actually lost something. But if they haven't lost something, I think most of our suppliers, they will be willing to cancel or maybe to give vouchers for later use where it is possible.
All right, thanks very much for that. And as the days go on, I suppose it's going to get a little tougher, and it's a case-by-case basis is what you'll be dealing with there. Thank you very much, Tezi Mabuza. She's the Acting Commissioner of the National Consumer Commission. When we come back,